You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your hosts, Stacey. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free, on the App Store or Google Play. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Brian McKeon. Big news today, Brian.
Yeah, one of those news where the loss feels secondary. We'll get into it.
Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer with your ears, or subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you can see our wonderful faces. Like the video, hit the bell so you're notified whenever our videos go live. Coming up on today's show, we preview Game 2 of the series against Toronto between Carlos Rodón and Yusei Kikuchi. We go over Monday night's loss, but first, the biggest news of the day, John Sterling abruptly announcing his retirement.
Yeah, maybe the biggest news in the MLB season so far, in the sports world, biggest news. Just amazing, sad, a lot of emotions. John Sterling is a voice that a lot of you heard every day of your life, that you heard in highlights you watched, reminiscing some of the greatest moments of your life, that you heard. He's the soundtrack to a lot of your summers. And it's hard to really put into words what John Sterling means to not just the New York Yankees and not just their fan base, but the sports world, right? He is the voice of so many iconic sports moments, iconic sports calls, one of the more legendary broadcasters we've ever seen and we're ever going to see, because there will not be another John Sterling that comes along. Sad, bittersweet, but also damn proud. The Yankees did not have a circus of announcers for the last 4 decades. Right. It was John Sterling. It was his voice. And even on the S Network, it's always been Michael Kay. Legendary broadcasters, the two of them, and John deserves to be celebrated. And if I wasn't away, I'd be at that game Saturday, because he deserves a standing ovation. He deserves a round of applause. He deserves everything, all the pomp and circumstance that he announced, and he allowed players on old timers days and retirement ceremonies and everything you can imagine when he was in the field announcing their name. Now it's time for someone to announce John's name, and the Yankee fans to cheer John, because he deserves it, and he deserves it for all of his career. That ballpark better be packed on Saturday, and it will be packed for Saturday, and it won't be because of the bobblehead. Right.
Yeah. The bobblehead will be, plus they only give away 18,000 of those things. And if you have nearly 50,000 people in the stadium, most of them aren't going to have the bobblehead. Sterling said, "I'm very blessed human being. I've been able to do what I wanted, broadcasting for 64 years. As a little boy growing up in New York as a Yankees fan, I was able to broadcast the Yankees for 36 years. It's all to my benefit, and I leave very, very happy. I look forward to seeing everyone again on Saturday."
It's one of those things, when me or you both grew up passionate Yankee fans, right? And you dream of doing something like this for a living, where you're paid to talk about the Yankees. That's fantastic. Well, he was paid to go to every single Yankee game from the year 1989 on. Paid a handsome amount of money to do that, because he was really good at his job and he had a personality. And he brings to light, for me at least, the broadcaster with personality. He almost made it okay to not be the stagnant, and it'll be a 2-2. Like he had the element to him where he was professional and he wasn't a goofball all the time, but a specific home run call for every player. Like what other announcer in sports does that? And now you see it all the time. Now you see that, guys in football, Kansas City, you see all those kind of, that flair and that dramatic, and, the New York Rangers, it's a power play goal. You didn't see that in the world prior to that. You didn't see announcers doing that. Back then it was, and it's a high fly ball, it's gone. Yeah, home run for the end. There wasn't that personality. And John made it okay. And for not just baseball, he made it okay for, he announced basketball at the start of his career. He made personality on the radio when it was for a long time, it was a very, stand up straight, have your tie up to your neck and be clean shaven industry. He turned it into, you can have your personality and some flair. And that's underrated in his career. He's a trailblazer.
It's just amazing how many games he called. 5,420 regular season games, 211 postseason games. And he had that streak that began in 89. He called 5,060 consecutive games until a 4-game absence in 2019.
And he only missed 4 games.
It's crazy.
Like, he called that many games and then missed 1 series for a medical procedure and then went right back into the booth. It's unbelievable. His streak nearly doubles Ripken's.
Right.
Think about that. Like, again, Ripken's playing, so it's a little different. But
right.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. A guy that had, and then John's one of those guys too. If you look up the stuff on his personal life, John got married later in life. John had 4 children, but I mean, 3 of them, I think he had triplets at once, and he had them older in life. I think his oldest is 20 and his youngest are 17. So it's not like, and John's 85. So he had his kids later in life and they became a purpose, but his whole life prior to that was baseball.
Yeah.
His whole life was the Yankees. He did not miss a game, and there was no getting him. You know how many weddings he missed because of this?
Right.
And births of family members and birthdays and everything, because this was his passion. This was his love. This was everything that he ever wanted to do. The only upsetting thing about his career is that he called Islanders games. I'm not too proud of that. I'd like to mention, by the way, on the show, Rangers won the President's Trophy today. So go New York, because that's a relevant New York thing. I'm sure you'll see some Yankee players at the Garden during this April. But it's one of those things, and I think this is notable too. Something that John should be very proud of. In an industry where you don't see a lot of female leads on broadcasts, and you really haven't for the longest time, John welcomed Susan Waldman into the booth in 2005, and she remained his partner for almost the next 20 years. And he had a female in the booth with him that there was never once an incident where John Sterling talked down to her, didn't make her job feel worth it, or was anything remote how most people are in the industry towards women. Think about that. And John treated her like a complete equal and welcomed her on the broadcast and let her be her. And you can call Susan Waldman a pioneer for women in the industry. You really can. She was a female lead on a radio broadcast for the biggest organization in sports. And John Sterling never had a moment where he treated her like she didn't deserve to be there. That is so important for the scheme of females covering the sport of just sports history. Right. And John holds a big part in that, because John could have been that guy that said, I don't want to work with a girl. No, thank you. He could have done that. And you know what? Sad to say, the Yankees probably would have listened, because they're a big organization and John's been calling them for 30 years. But instead, he welcomed her in with open arms, and he was like, no, she's perfect for the job. And he made her perfect for that job. Like that is so important. There's so many things that are important. And it deserves to be mentioned too. Michael Kay with him from 92 to 01 until the Yes Network was developed. Stacey, them two called the dynasty.
Yeah.
Those two called the most iconic moments in Yankee history. I mean, they are the voice of your childhood. No? I mean, I was, super young when that happened, but they got
that was my adulthood.
You were still young and
I was in my 20s, but
falling in love with the team. But I mean, talk about that. How that voice was, that voice literally, I'm sure there were plenty of plans that you had to go to the movies and go on dates and go to this place and that place that you canceled to watch a Yankee game, that you didn't go to watch a Yankee game. And those guys were the voices you heard.
Yeah, never canceled dates, but everything else, yes. I'm pretty sure that the first time I heard John Sterling was when he was doing games for the New York Nets, because my dad would listen to. My dad listened and watched everything, and I soaked it all in when I was little, which sort of led to this, just an amazing career. All the different home run calls. Like, I just especially loved, because he was so into Broadway and so into really old songs that you could never predict what his calls would be. You would just know that he would reference something probably from like the 1940s.
He did.
Yeah.
He kept it true to himself. My favorite ones, I think the best one he ever had, for me at least, was the Teixeira one.
It's so funny.
Teixeira punches a text message into the bleachers. You're on the mark, Teixeira. I mean, the Matsui one's iconic. The A-Rod one is iconic. The Jeter one. But it's the random players that you can't forget. Like X marks the spot for Xavier Nady.
Nady. Oh my God.
Like those guys. Every single player had a call though.
Right.
Jacoby Ellsbury buries it. Like you can't not hear those calls. Like some of the iconic ones you just remember. Are there any favorites that you want to mention?
Obviously like the Bamtino, the Giambino.
You had to throw your Giambi one in there, didn't you?
Of course I had to throw that in there. Burn Baby Burn. Some of the older ones, but my
Burn
favorite...
Baby Burn one is attached with so many iconic moments too from that run.
Oh yeah.
Like Bernie's big hits and like the crowd. And what also helps is it wasn't one of those calls where you hear the crowd freaking out and then the announcer is like, oh, Bernie Williams, home run. What a big moment. The crowd's going. John got as excited as the crowd. He sounded like one of the fans calling, because he was a Yankee fan, but he sounded like one of the fans calling that play. You really felt it. If you were in your car stuck in traffic and that happened, you felt it. You felt that inside of you. And that's the perfect radio announcer. He paints the picture. He lets you watch television on your windshield and you know what you can envision all of it. It's, the Jeter quote was great. The Judge quote, when new guys come over, they try to predict what Sterling's home run call will be for them. And they're never right.
Yeah. Because they all get together. Shine. Yeah. They all get together. They're like, Judge is like, are they going to use the last name? Is he going to use the first name? Like, what is he going to use? And they're never right. He's like, we talk about it on the plane, the buses. We just try and figure it out. And we're never right.
And how many announcers in history can say that the players were that concerned about what they had to say about them?
Right.
Think about how special that is. These guys would come over to the team and predict what their call was.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So his last home run call was Stanton's grand slam on April 7th. And it was a true blue John Sterling call, complete with singing. Can't play it here, so look it up because we'll get in trouble if we play it. But
and look it up with full volume too, because it's great to hear Sterling's last call. But also, if you're struggling to really get into baseball season yet, because basketball and hockey playoffs are on, and there's a lot going on in sports, that there's a sound at the beginning of the clip that will get you ready for baseball season and want you to watch every game. It's the crack of Stanton's bat. It's the sound of spring, the pop of the glove and the crack of the bat. Stacey, you know what I'm talking about. The sound off the bat was, it was intoxicating. It was so good for a baseball fan. So take a listen to the whole clip. You'll love it.
Okay. Well, coming up next.
Back to baseball.
Not good baseball. We'll talk about it in a second. First, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. Also reply to the pinned comment. I did remember on Monday's video and I will remember on Tuesday's video. We put them up Monday through Thursday if you want your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description on YouTube. You'll get texts from us. You can text us questions. There's a 14-day free trial. It's a lot of fun. So again, coming up next, the Yankees lose. Womp womp. Guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I am super pumped to announce I am finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. You charge rent on iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends rent on those iconic properties, or you go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. By the way, I built New York City and London, and I'm in the midst of building Venice on Monopoly Go. And I'm not kidding. If you're watching on YouTube, there it is on my phone. My favorite part is the leaderboards where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. I have not gone bankrupt yet. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. And Locked On Yankees is brought to you by Game Time. Have you ever found yourself at Stan's or Billy's waiting outside without tickets, yet stressing out about where you're going to sit, how much you're going to pay, or what your view will look like? That's why I go to Game Time to get tickets. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with last-minute deals that are killer, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDON MLB, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Yankees. It's Locked On NFL's mock draft, live on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today, the 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app. And don't forget, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SiriusXM app and search the word Yankees. Oh, tonight's game. Well, excuse me, Monday night's game.
Exactly. See, caught you.
Because it's Tuesday's episode. I've only been doing this show, since 2018. But yeah. So Luis Gil.
I think it was a Luis Gil start, right? Like that's what you're going to expect out of him. 5 innings, 3 runs, good fastball, a lot of walks.
Way too many walks. But the thing about this is, if you don't know his exact line, 5 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 7 walks, 6 strikeouts. According to James Smythe of the Yes Network, who I've met in person, is a very good dude. This is a unique box score line. It's the first of its kind among 1.1 million MLB pitching lines in the regular season or postseason since 1901.
That's amazing. It's amazing how we have some pitching lines from like 1901. That's crazy too. You can
that
see
too. Yeah,
it was a very Luis Gil game though, right? It felt like a start that he was gonna put forward. This is what his career is gonna be, in my opinion. I don't think he becomes a Garrett Cole type. I think he's this. And there's a spot for guys like this in your roster. This is a 4 or 5 starter. And
I don't know. I think he should be bullpen. I think he throws hard enough for
Really?
bullpen, and I think they should condense him into 1 or 2 innings. Let him just throw as hard as he can. Just throw strikes. That's all you need to do. I really think he should be.
This is a problem though. Is he is a bull? He's going to become a bullpen guy that's susceptible to walks because he does walk a lot of guys. But he does have one of the more electric fastballs in baseball. You got to be honest with it. His fastball is incredible. The velocity is up there. He's got a nice rise to it. He's a strikeout machine, but he throws a lot of balls.
I think they could work on that with him. They need to work on that with him. Where's Matt Blake? He turns everyone else into Cinderella when they're a pumpkin. So come on, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, the Blue Jays were all over him tonight, and a combination of that is the fact that the Yankees offense just could not get going at any point. They couldn't get a rhythm going. They couldn't get a string of guys. You're going to have these games in the season. You are. Like, this happens. It wasn't Volpe, again, had better at-bats, too. Volpe had good at-bats. Oswaldo keeps hitting and keeps proving to us why he should be playing every day. I don't know why me and you were like, it feels like me and you are like 2 of like a very small minority who don't support this train. Everyone else a lot of people seem to agree with the Yankees not playing Oswaldo.
I don't agree with that at all.
I feel like me and you are in the minority of people that are on the train of, yes, play him full time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I thought you meant the other way. I was like, how dare you?
No. Oswaldo should be playing every single day. And another thing that needs to be noted here is the start Chris Bassett gave you. I said yesterday, I think the Blue Jays are a playoff team out of this division.
Oh,
and
sure.
I think they're going to be a team that's going to be they haven't won lately in the postseason, but they're also a team that you don't want to see in the postseason. They're one of those teams you don't want to play them going in. They have starting pitchers that have a capability of going long into games, a decent bullpen, and really good offensive pieces that can take a game over. Vlad can change games with one swing. And those are the kind of guys that you look for on your roster. And look at what Bassett did today.
Yeah, but they've had this the past two postseasons, and they just something happens when the when the calendar turns to October.
But can't I make any of those points to you going into a postseason series, and you're going to say, you know what, valid, not the team I want to play?
No, not after the last two seasons. These guys
they are
in
the
postseason. I don't know why. They let
I don't know why either.
Win a postseason series.
But that's the point though. Is
no, but I know
these pitchers are one good postseason from completely changing that narrative.
Right.
You know, there are teams that have always been like that. You know, that all of a sudden that narrative flips. The Dodgers, you know, Kershaw was the worst postseason pitcher ever, and they couldn't play in the postseason, everything like that, until the year they won the World Series. And then Kershaw put up great performances, and the Dodgers pitching staff was awesome, and they got over that hump, and now they can win championships. Like you're one postseason series away where maybe you've struggled, but Bassett 6 1/3 against one of the better offenses in the league so far to go 6 1/3 when the Yankees are having guys out of the game really quickly this year. 4 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 5 Ks against a team that he threw 2 walks against a team that sees the most pitches in all of baseball. That's your number 3, number 4 starter in Chris Bassett. That's a really good performance. So, you know, we definitely have to get into the next game, because I think tomorrow's game or today's game proves a lot more. It proves a lot more about where these teams are in the standings and who they kind of are as they discover themselves. So definitely stick around, because you're going to want to look at the pitching matchups, and you're going to want to hear what we have to say, because that game tomorrow has the line and the look of a game that's played in October.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you guys why. Are you struggling to close deals? Business-to-business selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn. Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and show you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations to the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a free 60-day trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7. The top sports stories of the day with local exports of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. And remember that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. We'll all go over a little bit more of John Sterling, kind of recap and talk about some of his impressive stats and our favorite memories. But Stacey, I think it's important that we get into game 2, because I said before the break, this is a playoff type feel, and not a playoff type atmosphere or feel for the game. I mean, in the way this game matters. The Yankees they dominated the Blue Jays in the first home series, but now they got dominated last night. They couldn't beat Toronto in their home ballpark. And you're going to have to win games on the road. You have to be a good team in the road. And this is a team that you could very well see later on in the season. This is going to be a team that's going to be competing for a spot with you guys. They're going to be competing for you with the division. They're going to be chasing you tail and tail all season. And a team that you could likely see in October. And you know what you're going to get out of Garrett Cole in a big playoff game, right? You know what he's going to do in a game in Toronto and Yankee Stadium against the Blue Jays. What you don't know is Carlos Rodón. And what the Blue Jays don't know is Yusei Kikuchi. And this is a start that these guys could wind up seeing each other in October. This could be a matchup that we see in a few months. And I want to see how Rodón goes out there in a day after you get embarrassed in on the road. You're coming in playing hot and you get embarrassed. You can't hit. And how does Rodón come out? Like, I want to see Rodón go out there and shove. And I want to see Rodón go out there, 7 strikeouts, control the strike zone, don't let solid contact, mix the pitches around like he did in the last game. That shows a lot. You need a guy in your rotation that can be a stopgap, that can be the cinder block in the road. And Rodón could very well be that guy. He has the talent to be that guy. So I think let's go see him do that. When last year you had no confidence in him doing that. There was never many opportunities for him to do that. This is his first chance to do that in a Yankee uniform. Let's see him do it.
Would be nice.
Yeah, like I think Rodón is that kind of pitcher. And he's a guy that in your rotation, that's important. You know, because Garrett Cole is always going to be that. But having that guy that when Garrett Cole has a bad start, he nips it in the bud real that fast, that's important. And he's the kind of guy in your rotation that can give you those things. So I think this is a big start for Rodón. Even though it's early in the season, it's a big start for Rodón.
No, it is, because he's been building on his previous starts. We spoke about that on yesterday's show, or at least I said that on yesterday's show, that he keeps improving every start. And it would be nice to see him improve even more in this third start. It'd be great.
It really would. I want to roll back into some of the John Sterling stuff because of what John Sterling means to us in our baseball lives. When do you consider the start of your Yankee fandom? At what age? What time around?
The late 70s.
And that's that. I mean, those are the Reggie Jackson years, and then so you're a decade into your Yankee fandom when John comes on the broadcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you remember about the flair of when he started introducing home run calls and when his broadcast style was noticeably different?
I feel like his flair started a little bit after he started, because he used to do Braves games. And I feel like once the Yankees started getting good again, that's when things changed.
Yeah.
Because when he first started, those were lean years, those first few years that he was
the 80s
the
in general.
radio. Yeah. The Yankees weren't bad in the 80s. If the wild card existed, they would have made the playoffs at least
Probably
2
had
times.
more World Series, to be honest.
Yeah, so they wouldn't have, they weren't terrible. It was 90 and 91 that they were terrible. So the, second and third seasons that he was the Yankees' voice were awful. And I feel like more of his personality came out when they started winning, obviously.
I mean, it helps. His voice is attached to iconic calls.
Yeah.
Right? Like, iconic calls, the massive home runs and huge spots, the walk-offs in the postseason, and even elite pitching performances that they had. The Mariano coming into games, like John knew how to call those moments, and he knew how to make those moments feel big. Even though he gave it the ambiance to make it feel big.
I saw a clip earlier from Game 4 of the 2001 ALCS. Bernie Williams hit a home run late to tie it. I was at that game. So I never really heard Sterling's call for that game. So I watched it and heard it today, and I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I was in the upper deck watching that game, and I complained to my brother in the bottom of the ninth. I said, I've never seen a walk-off in a playoff game. And I'm not even kidding. 2 seconds later, Alfonso Soriano hit the walk-off to win that game. And I was like, and then, even funnier, my next game was Game 4 of the World Series in 2001. What happened that game? That was Tino to tie and Jeter to win.
Yep. I'm jealous of you getting to go to World Series games like that. I've actually never been to the World Series, and I'm hoping it's going to be one day a big. It's different now though, because now it's a mortgage payment going to a World Series.
That is true.
Back in the day, it was not as impossible to get your hands on a ticket.
Yeah, that was part of my season ticket package. I would get a couple of tickets each round of the playoffs, and it just happened to be home game number 2, which worked out to be game number 4 of each of those series. And yeah, I also had game 2 against Oakland when they lost. And then my dad and I, my dad scalped tickets for game 5 against Oakland, and we watched them clinch that series. And that was always a fun memory. I wonder what Sterling's, I think I heard Sterling's ending to that when they clinched that series, because, going down 0-2 to Oakland
Yeah.
And then the flip play happens.
Well, especially with the team that you had, right? Like you couldn't lose that series, and the flip play was just and that call was amazing. I think that might have been John might have been color for that play, because I think Kay called the play-by-play wise, and John was the guy who, and that's what was so impressive too, is when the two of them called, they alternated innings. So you had a John Sterling was the color guy for one play, and then immediately after was the play-by-play guy. I mean, that alone is impressive, right? And Kay and John were able to, it makes them such well-rounded broadcasters. And I think what should be noted too is John's contribution on Yankeeography, big Yankees, like Yankees history chronicles that they had on there. I mean, you had some really big, he did a lot of Yes Network shows, and he's the voice of those shows. I mean, if you're a Yankee fan and you love the history of this franchise and everything, you love watching the Yankeeographies. I mean, you're one of those people that can sit through the Yankeeographies and stuff, and John was there for those. You know, because a lot of people, if you're not like a diehard sports fan, you're not going to sit through one of those. Me and you are a different breed, I think. Whereas a lot of people aren't going to sit through those. And John's the voice of those shows. John perfectly describes the iconic moments of early on in that franchise. And it's also noted the stories that you hear about John Sterling, right? Have you heard this legendary airplane story from a few years ago?
I don't think so.
John was known as one of these guys who is seemingly always in his own world, right? Like it's just John's world, and because he does what he wants, and he still uses a flip phone. He still doesn't have email. Like there's many things that just are John Sterling, and they'll forever be John Sterling because he's in John's world. Apparently they were on the plane. This is a couple of years ago on a long flight back from California, and the Yankees got hit a lot of turbulence, and like an alarming amount of turbulence on the plane, and it's bouncing up and down and everything like that. So much turbulence that the oxygen masks were released, which is a scary moment.
Sure.
And John was one of those guys on the road trips that apparently always had a book out. He was always reading. Constantly reading, and he'd have the book out and he's constantly reading, and the masks come down, and as he has the book up in his hands, the mask comes down right in front of him, and he smacks the mask, keeps smacking it and getting it away while everyone's rushing to throw the oxygen mask on themselves. John is moving it out of the way because he's still in the middle of his page, and he can't not focus on something different. That is the focus. is I'm reading my book, just a different breed, and people looking at him like he's crazy, and he's like, I'm trying to read here. And he's like, if the plane goes down, the plane goes down. I'm in the middle of this. It's like the most John Sterling, just perfect story of like that's what he was. He was the guy on the road trips that he shut up when he shut up. He was ready for the game. There was prep involved and dedication, but I don't feel like it was at the level where some guys go, where it's that crazy and detail oriented. It's John Sterling. It's detail oriented. He's coming in being John, and that's an incredible job again. The pioneering stuff that he had in this industry, bringing personality into the booth, welcoming a female in as the full-time broadcaster. There are certain things that he did that are perfect for this industry, and he's going to be missed. He really is going to be missed on the Yankee broadcast.
Yep. It's going to be weird. It's going to be really weird. There's multiple generations of people who've been listening to him.
From grandparents on. Right? Mm-hmm. Like grandparents to their sons, that he's been the soundtrack of your summer, the soundtrack of Yankee baseball. I mean, it's an iconic figure that's going. I hope the Yankees, nothing's been announced, nothing's been leaked on it or anything. They're doing a ceremony Saturday at the game, and I'm really hoping they give him some kind of Monument Park designation. You know, Bob Shepard has something out there like a monument for Bob Shepard. I really hope that John gets something like that because John deserves that. I don't know if it'll happen.
It's not going to be ready by. It's not going to be ready by Saturday. They're going to have to.
They're the New York Yankees.
I don't know. That's a big undertaking. Unless they, no. But they might do something and show like what a future one will look like, or do something there because it's not that easy to make those things.
I feel like if anything can make it happen in the time span that they wanted to, it's probably the Yankees. But
we also know we also know it's not going to be as big as Steinbrenner's because that you can see from space. Anyway,
for an ego that size, you got to have a big billboard.
True. Yeah. One more time before we go, don't forget, join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. There's a link in the description and a 14-day free trial. You get texts from us. You can text us questions. And speaking of that, leave your questions under the pinned comment on YouTube to get your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday. And remember, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SiriusXM app, search the word Yankees. but you won't hear John anymore. That's sad.
You can still listen to his past calls.
That's true. That's
Those
true.
live on forever.
They will. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll see you tomorrow.